So our next speaker is Clodagh Higgins, and she's going to be talking about 6 tips before you consider to sell your agency. And Rob really finished with selling his agency story. So Clodagh, I think it plays nicely to what you're going to be talking about. So over to you.
Fantastic. Can you see my screen and everything okay sound-wise?
Not yet, but yes, now it's coming. Beautiful. It's working.
Super. So I'm an agency coach and consultant, and I have a podcast called The Agency Life. 117 episodes completed. I've worked with a number of different agencies through mergers and acquisitions, and here are some tips from my personal experience of going through that process with them from behind the scenes. And before you jump in the deep end, there is, if you're not being approached by someone to sell your agents, to buy your agency, I really do recommend that everyone goes through these stages, because if you think about selling your agency before you want to sell it, it's actually the best time because there's less emotion involved. There's less pressure on you. So these are tips no matter if you're not thinking about selling for a number of years. Number one is get all your processes and procedures in place. I really recommend the entrepreneurial operating system. It helps you with things like vision, people, data, issues, processes. And the book that you can read to get you going on this is Traction by Gino Wickman. Really short book to read. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube that you can look up, and it can really get you started. It's something that wouldn't take you a very long time to do. I also recommend including, with just building on the back of what Rob has talked about, is having regular quarterly review meetings and maybe hackathons to ensure that your team is contributing to the processes and procedures in your agency. Number two, so that's the first one. I'm moving my slides as well. I'm doing the two things. So number two is to create a pitch deck, a business overview about your agency. It's important to really make a good first impression. This is where you're going to build rapport with a potential buyer. And when crafting the presentation, there's some things that you can include, like meet us, share the information about your history. Where did you come from? Why did you start an agency? Why are you looking to sell? Values of your agency. These are so important, especially if you're merging with another agency. What have you done in the past? Your financials, as many as you can, at least up to the last 5 years. Your awards and your accomplishments. What is the opportunity in buying the agency? And where do you see yourselves in the future? What would it look like? Where do you see yourself in it? When talking about your portfolio of clients and your case studies, this is a really important part to highlight your results. What problems have you solved in the past, and what makes you different from other agency owners? Now, spoiler alert here, it cannot be you. You cannot be the main driver of your agency. You can talk about how you started it, but if you're a key person in sales, or you're key in operations, and there's no way of you exiting, that can be a bit of a deterrent. So it's about building a team around you, unless you plan to stay and you want to be a part of the new business. Don't tell that. Number three is a big one, which feels kind of weird when you've got such loyalty and you love working with your team, but don't tell everyone until the deal is done. Agency owners and entrepreneurs are just really good at taking risks. We don't mind having things kind of uncertain and things changing in the future, but that's not what our employees want. The minute they hear that somebody could be buying the agency, they start to go to the negative place. They worry about, will I have a job in the future? Oh, they're going to get rid of everyone. And it really is much better if you can just wait and just have a plan, do the deal, and then present everything all in one go and give them the security going, this is what's changing, this is what's not changing. And usually when sales happen, it's business as usual for the first 6 months, so nothing really does change. But they worry about it when they hear a sniff of that the agency is going to be sold. So it feels weird, but it's actually the best thing to do. The next one is to prepare for a long sales process. Even if you were well prepared, it can take a long time to sell your agency. There's a number of factors that can influence the length of the sales process, including the size of the agency. This is a big one. the type of the business, the asking price, the level of interest from the buyers. Recently, I've gone through one where there was it was actually the funding was taking longer. The agency and the buyer were absolutely fine, but it was the funding and the banks and everything else that delayed the process by up to 6 weeks. So preparing that, on average, what I'm seeing is it can be quick, it can be 3 months, it can be 9 months. So adjusting yourself and preparing for that is really, really important. What I'm seeing, a question I get asked all the time is, well, how much is my agency worth? What we're seeing at the moment is, depending on the specialization of the agency, the fact that they have processes and procedures, everything well documented, prices are ranging anything from 2 times to up to 6 times EBITDA, so your profits. And even if you're willing to accept a lower price, it's still important to allow enough time for interested buyers to do the due diligence. This is the part that can take a lot of time. The one I have is engage a coach, a consultant, get somebody to walk you through the process. What I've seen over and over again is the minute the agency owner starts the buying process, they start to future pace, and then they kind of neglect what is going on in the business. Maybe they aren't paying attention to a member of staff or a client or their sales pipeline. So if you work with a coach and get them to do things like the meetings and the organization and liaising with the buyer, while you stay in your lane and do the business, and you just turn up for the meetings that are important, it really is valuable to do that. And the agencies that have engaged somebody to help them through the process come out a lot better at the end. The final tip I have here is to have a couple of exit strategies. This is why I say to agency owners, think about selling the agency before somebody approaches you. What would you like? Are you looking for a full sale or a partial sale? Do you want to merge with someone? Do you want to be bought out completely? Are you going to stay on for a period of time? Do you want a full-time role? Do you want a contracting role? As a business owner, it's really important to have multiple avenues. And especially if somebody does approach you, you can be very clear about what you do want and what you don't want. Now, while there's a lot of steps involved when you're selling your agency, if you have an exit strategy in place, you will get all the processes and procedures in order. Get those in order. EOS, it's just a game changer. Have an exit strategy. Think of various different options. Be prepared, just in case someone does approach you. It can kind of derail you in your normal agency life. Build your pitch deck. Have everything, all your plans, keep them under wraps. Don't talk to the team. Just make sure everything is 100% secure, that you have been bought, and then present to the team as a united front. And if you do all of those things and prepare for a long sales process, you will have everything in order so that a transition is as smooth as possible. And the big thing is enjoy the journey. It can be quite a roller coaster, but remember, keeping yourself in check with everything, you can actually have a really good time doing it. So that is me. I think hopefully I'm under the 10 minutes. I was very conscious of that, Barris.